Madam Mina's. A warning to anyone who's out there listening. If the mysterious and macabre traveling fair and roadshow comes to your town, please do not visit Madam Mina's fortune-telling booth. I found out the hard way, my friends. I haven't much time, and if you don't want to end up like me, then you will listen, and listen closely. It happened a year ago. Last Halloween, me and some friends visited Madam Mina's booth when the roadshow came to town. Now, I don't believe in such things, but a few in the group did, and we decided to all get a reading. We walked into her tent and were greeted by a dark-haired, dark-eyed woman dressed in dark turquoise. The tent was dimly lit. She sat behind a large round table, surrounded by candles. The room was eerie, and I'm not sure why, but the woman had a sinister look about her. Maybe it was her eyes, or the way she smiled. She greeted us with a thick European accent. I'm not quite sure from where. Maybe it was Romanian. Hello, and welcome. I am Madam Mina. Please come and sit down, and let me tell you of your futures, and exactly how the rest of your lives will play out. I was in the back of the line, but my reaction of bullshit must have been heard by her, and she must have seen my smart-assy grin, because right away she says, I see we have a skeptic in the group. But this is no bullshit, my friend, and definitely nothing to be grinning at. My friends all looked back at me with annoyance. I waved my hand back at them in a dismissive way, and we all sat down. She pulled out a deck of tarot cards, the likes I have never seen before. They were black, outlined by a color of red that resembled blood. The crazy thing is, I seemed to be the only one taken aback by this. Everyone else was too preoccupied by the shit show Madam Mina was putting on. She sprinkled some kind of dust all over the deck, then took out a black vial and poured a droplet of green liquid on each of the cards. My friends oohed and awed after her display of tricks. But trust me, after a half hour, the tent was as silent as a tomb. You see, there were no more smiles, no more excitement from my friends after one by one they were told of their excruciating upcoming deaths. She told them they would all die within the year, before next Halloween. Not a specific time or place, but it would happen when we least expected it. My friends all sat there dumbfounded. Now it was my turn. She told me I would fall in love with my soulmate, no doubt, and she would cause my untimely and gruesome death next Halloween. I busted out laughing, looking around the entire room. Guys, come on. This is bullshit, I said sarcastically. But if I knew then what I know now, then I wouldn't have laughed. Like I said, I don't have long. There were 5 of us that night. I'm the only one left. Everything Mina told us was correct. My friends all died horrifically, and I did meet the love of my life. It's Halloween night. My wife's supposed to cause my death. But I don't know how or why. We're completely in love. As a matter of fact, she's pregnant with our child. I have until midnight. It's 10 o'clock now. I haven't much time left. We're here at the roadshow. We have to get answers. I've told my wife everything. At first she didn't believe me, but when my last two friends died, exactly how they were predicted, she started to believe. We enter Madame Mina's tent. She looks the same as last year. Even the inside looks the same. She recognizes me. I don't know how, but she does. Ah, you're still alive. She glances at her watch. But not for too much longer, I am afraid. Oh, is this your wife? How lovely she is. And pregnant too. What a shame. My wife gets enraged over those comments. She attempts to slap her, but Madame Mina grabs her wrist. At that moment, it seemed as if Mina sensed something with my wife. Hold that thought, my dear. My cards are speaking to me. Please sit down and let me give you a reading. Trust me, you're going to want to hear this. I walked over and helped my wife into the chair and sat down right beside her. Mina placed her cards in front of her and said, "Oh my, there it is. There's the reason. How interesting." I shouted, "What is it? What the hell do you see? Tell me." She pulls out a gun and puts it on the table. We both sit back. Calm down, my friends. Do not be alarmed. This is an option for your wife. Madame Mina exclaimed. "What the hell are you talking about?" I screamed impatiently. She told me to calm down and listen. I looked at her as she spoke. The cards don't lie, my friend. You should not have brought your wife here. You see, whoever gets a reading must die before the year is out. Lives must be given, don't you see? You were so close. There was just 2 hours left. I look at her dumbfounded. Are you saying my wife is going to die before this night is out? Mina shakes her head no, then looks over at my wife. Not you, darling, but the baby. If you don't take the gun and kill your husband, then your baby dies at midnight. She turns her head back to me. See, you should not have brought her here, my friend. This did not have to happen. The cards are not always correct. You could have made it. Madame Mina said sorrowfully. I sat there shocked, not able to move, just staring down at the table. I could hear my wife sobbing. What have I done, I thought. A tear falls down my cheek. I hear my wife's voice whisper into my ear. I love you. I'm sorry. A cold metal presses against my head. Then darkness. Why I hate fortune tellers. Oh my gosh, look! Lydia exclaimed, running out into the crowded fairground. I couldn't tell what she was pointing at until I caught up with her. But it just turned out to be one of those old fortune teller machines, with an animatronic old woman sitting inside. Underneath was a sign reading, Madame Fortuna, Mistress of Fate. I love these things, she explained to me, fishing out 50 cents from her purse. When she turned her back on me to put them into the slot, I rolled my eyes. She'd mentioned in her dating profile that she was into spiritual stuff, psychics, horoscopes, and such, but I didn't think she'd fall for something this dumb. Yet she pressed the receive button on the machine and looked genuinely excited when the animatronic came to life, turning its head upward and opening its mouth, making an unnerving raspy moan as its crystal ball lit up, before all the lights in the machine abruptly turned off, and a small card was spat out, which she then snatched up. "You will soon be graced by divine luck," she read out. "That's so exciting!" I scoffed, but if she heard, she didn't react, instead looking up at me expectantly. "Okay, now you take one." "Oh, come on, babe," I began as I put my arm around her. "Why don't I use the money to treat you to a drink at the beer tent instead?" But she was unrelenting. "Please," she begged. "It'll be fun. Don't you want to know what fate has in store for you?" I groaned inwardly, but since I still wanted her happy enough to agree to come to my place after the date, I gave in. "Fine," I mumbled, grabbing 2 quarters out of my pocket, causing her to squeal in excitement. After putting them into the machine, I was once again treated to the machine's creepy animation, and like the last time, it spat out a card after its lights went out. "Want to read it together?" I asked Lydia as I pulled it out, and she reacted like a kid on Christmas morning, running up and grabbing onto my waist as she read. I smirked. For as dumb as I thought this was, it seemed to have paid off. My happiness didn't last for long, however. Looking down at the card, my eyes widened as the blood drained from my face. The flowery text printed on the card read out, "The police found the bodies. Run." After I read it, I felt Lydia let go of me, and before I could catch her, she already got lost in the crowd. Before I could chase her, I heard a faint sound in the distance that stopped me. Police sirens. I turned to run, but as I did, I saw something that made me freeze in fear. The lights in the machine were back on, and the hag's face had changed. She was now staring right at me with a wide, cruel grin. The fortune teller. I'm efficient. I compute the data at hand fast, reach a decision, and execute with no delay. That's why I'm good at what I do, and I'm also good at what I do as a cover. That perhaps makes me a bit of a psychopath, but I function fine. My girlfriend loves me. I love her too. She wants to get married, but I want to be done with the job so I can compartmentalize that part of my life and move on to better things, like spending all that hard-earned cash with Gloria. I am a few weeks away from a job, so we are spending a couple of days being tourists in our neighborhood. When I work, no detail escapes me, but it seems I have failed to notice the endless small restaurants and bookshops and cafes within walking distance. During dinner, Gloria says she'd heard about a great fortune teller at the state fair and really wants to go. I laugh it off at first, but she keeps insisting, so we get a cab and get to the fair. I'd rather go on the coaster, but I can't ever really say no to Glow. We reach the end of the fairgrounds, and of course it is a tent, and of course she is called Cassandra. The only surprise is that she is sitting behind a huge desk in her turban, sucking on a cinnamon hookah. She has a crystal ball, of course. Needless to say, I don't believe in anything paranormal, so I'm just wondering how well she can people read if she comes so highly recommended. Gloria tells me to go first and sits in the corner on an ottoman. Madame Cassandra starts with some really mundane stuff. I am good with my hands, she says. I am a risk taker. It pays off. I am from a far-off place. Then things get weird. She starts getting specific. She mentions things from my childhood only my mom and Glo would know about. She mentions friends and their quirks, and her descriptions are spot on. I am feeling very uneasy already. I can't read her face, but she clearly can read my life like a book. My heart skips a beat when she squints her eyes and says, "And we need to talk about the really bad thing you did in Rome recently." I am efficient and calculating. I know what needs to be done. I shoot Glo in the heart, and before Madame Cassandra can scream, I get her in the left eye. As she slumps, something lights up behind her desk. I have a look. An iPad with my Facebook open on it. The photo of me puking in the Trevi fountain that I thought was funny. And some notes with my name, the stories, and friends she talked about with an underlying objective. Persuade him to propose. Shit. I take out my phone. I need the cleanup team at the fair. Don't ask. I can see the future. 100% accurate. Well, originally that was a fabrication, but only because I didn't actually predict anything yet. A whisper campaign worked like a charm. For a smaller, superstitious town like my own, word like that spreads around, and it did. People came to me, worried about success, about luck, about risky maneuvers they had no idea how to control, so they grasped at straws. Turned to the supernatural. I was their answer. I indulged them, of course. I had crystals and crystal balls at the ready, threw cards around on the table, like any good psychic does. They watched in awe, not blinking, not wanting to miss the arcane magic at work. I was dressed seductively. I spoke softly and mysteriously. My house was precisely what you would imagine a soothsayer's house looked like, with a black cat to boot, and people lapped it up. It was all fake, of course. I did not need any of that. My power was that I could tell people their future, and it was always accurate. I didn't require neither incense, robes, no tarot to achieve that. It was simply a learned science. No, I would say, to a fledgling businessman making a risky venture into new territory. No, I would say, to a girl wondering if that mysterious-looking neighbor actually fancies her. No, I would say, to a frustrated student asking me if he will ever pass his exams. No, I would say, to everyone, for everything. It was true every time. They knew it was. After all, every prediction I made before them was true. Why wouldn't this one be? Why would the businessman throw money away when he knows his venture will fail? Why would the girl embarrass herself when she knows the neighbor's way out of her league? Why would the student spend hours and hours studying when his failure is certain? And they were right. Everything I said came to pass. Nothing surprising, really. I am, after all, 100% accurate in my predictions. Not because divine powers grant me foresight, not because of any spirit, crystal, or birth-given ability, simply because I was right so far. There is no reason to try if you know you will fail, right? After all, I communed with the spirits and waved crystals around, right? So many stories about me getting it right. There's no way yours would be different, right? So you don't try. So you fail. It's not a question whether or not I can tell the future. Really. I can. And it will be 100% accurate. The question is, do you really wish to hear it? Well read. This place looked more like an antique store than anything. Right next to the small circular table where she was sitting, he could see a long shelf with beautiful, handcrafted boxes. Behind her was a mountain of vases, painted by true talent. All above her, luscious multicolored jewels hung and spun on invisible threads. She gestured for him to approach and sit, neither blinking nor taking her gaze off of him. Payment is up front, method of your choice. He handed her a $20 bill and pointed at a bag, which he assumed was full of dice. He was tired of tarot cards and crystal balls, so he wanted to try something new. She shook the bag and threw the contents on the table between them. Human teeth scattered on the grainy wood and eventually came to rest, but not before making him squirm in disgust. She interpreted the mouth bones for what seemed like eternity and settled on a conclusion. The molars all grouped together over here. Usually it means nothing, but the canines form a cross around them. This combination is not good. It is not at all good. It points to imminent danger. You would do best to be alert and on guard. He stared at her unfazed. He had been treating himself to readings in jest for years, and it wasn't the first time the forecast called for a dark future. Some old kooky ladies with gifts were simply more mean-spirited than others. He thanked her and continued on with his day. The woman got out of her seat and carefully inspected the chair he had occupied. She picked up something minuscule, perhaps a hair, with her skeletal fingers, and approached the long shelf. She scanned all the antique boxes like books at a library, eventually settling on one adorned with black gems. She opened it, put his hair inside it, and closed the box with a smile. She knew by tomorrow both the man and the hair would be gone.